Today on Mother Mayhem.
Your nervous system learned. People leave. I think your nervous system learned something that's even harder than that to hold too. I think you ended up learning that relationships change over time and the truth about relationships changes. And all of that is always dependent on your mom's emotional needs. Welcome back to Mother Mayhem, the podcast for daughters of narcissistic and emotionally limited mothers. I'm your host, Heather Gray. And today, daughters, I get to introduce you to Maggie. And Maggie, it actually brings me some delight to tell you about your name. I named you after Maggie Valley in North Carolina, which is one of my most favorite places in the world. My aunt had a place there growing up, and she called it a chalet, but honestly, I just thought of it as a house. In my memory, it was this warm little house in the Smoky Mountains where I felt so incredibly safe. There was something about being there that always kind of settled me, and it felt like a refuge in a way that is a little hard to explain unless, of course, you've had a place like that in your own life too. And 2 weeks or so ago, after our first Mayhem Daughters retreat ended in Asheville, I found myself thinking about Maggie Valley again because the truth is I chose Asheville for the retreat because of how close it was to Maggie Valley. I think somewhere deep down, I just wanted to create that feeling that I had as a little girl that was safe and warm and a place where you could just stop all of the things for a hot minute. And so, Maggie, that's how you got your name. Because when I think of Maggie Valley, I think of safety. And I think you could really use something that feels safe, steady, and true. I'm going to start first with your letter, and then I'll find you on the other side. Hi, Heather. I'm writing to share my story for the Mother Mayhem podcast. I'm currently navigating a very painful cycle with my mom and the men she brings into my life, and I'm hoping that by sharing this, it might resonate with others and provide some perspective on breaking these generational patterns. For years, I've dealt with a recurring theme. My mother's partners eventually turn against me. Growing up, I was led to believe that my stepfather was my father. I have so many happy memories of him. He coached my sports, he took me to father-daughter dances, he paid for my school, took us on family vacations, and so much more. All of my photos from my childhood are of him, my mother, my brother, and me. I was so close to him that I even chose to live with him after he and my mom divorced. But like so many others, that relationship eventually ended with him hating me. Meanwhile, my biological father's always been around, but my mother has consistently painted him as bad or not enough, and it's made every interaction between them incredibly awkward and tense. Now, the pattern's repeating with her current husband. He's been emotionally and physically abusive towards my mom, and he's even targeted my own family. He's threatened to ruin my husband's business and contacted our landlord to try to get us evicted. During this time, my mom has become incredibly dysregulated. When things aren't good with her husband, it's absolute chaos. She screamed profanities at me and has gone as far as speaking poorly about me within my own workplace. I've set boundaries and she knows not to involve me in her chaos, but she still chooses to have these outbursts. She was never emotionally available to me growing up, and while I do feel sorry for her, I need her to stop harassing me. And I need her to stop allowing her husband to be around my family. She's also trying to triangulate me with my brother, so now we have these three-way calls to ensure that she can't twist our words. I've reached a breaking point. While I've told my mom that I can forgive her current husband for my own peace, I've also been really clear with them that I need a breather. I don't want to be around him, and I absolutely do not want my children around him. My husband, understandably, has a deep-seated hatred for him, especially after the threats to our livelihood and our home. I refuse to let my children feel the same kind of abandonment and instability that I felt with my father, my stepfather, and all of my mom's various boyfriends. I'm tired because I'm actively healing and keeping my distance, trying to break this cycle. Your podcast has helped so much and has brought to light so many aha moments for me. I'm still in the early episodes, but I greatly appreciate your words and hearing other stories. Thank you for providing a space to share. Ooh, okay, Maggie. Right away off the top here, I just want you to clearly hear me say that we see you and we hear you and we believe you. And this sounds really painful and confusing. And I do think Mayhem can help you begin to make sense of what's been happening. And I think the best way I can do that is right off the bat, I need to tell you, I think I see your story a little bit differently than you do. So I'm going to ask that you just sit with me in this conversation and maybe borrow my lens, because I know the way you're looking at this story is the men in your mom's life attached to you, then they turn on you and they love you and then they reject you, they become family, then they become unsafe. And yeah, Maggie, I understand why this is the story your nervous system is carrying, because of course this is the story. This is what you've been living through over and over again. But I don't actually think this is a story about the men changing their minds about you. I think this is a story about attachment never getting to feel safe for you or stable for any kind of time, because your nervous system was never allowed to ever get settled into it. I think your story is a story of a little girl who's now a grown woman being asked over and over again to keep trying to make sense of herself around her mom's relationships, her mom's needs, her mom's chaos, and her mom's version of reality. And Maggie, that's a different story. Because when you're a kid and someone says, "This is your father," of course, your nervous system is going to make sense of your life around that information. It's how you come to know yourself. It's how you start to figure out your place in the world. It's how you start to build a sense of safety or family by learning who you actually belong to. And yeah, Maggie, of course you attached and trusted and loved your stepdad. Of course you did. You were told to. You made memories with him and you were cared for by him. And yes, you let yourself belong inside that family picture you were handed, because of how would it ever have occurred to you not to? You were a kid doing what kids do, attaching to the people who are keeping them safe. And that, my friend, is why this hurts so incredibly much. When I heard that your stepdad coached your sports and he took you to father-daughter dances and paid for school and vacations, and so much so that he became the person that you chose to live with after divorce, I hear how much you loved him and how much you cared about him and what that kind of relationship felt like for you. It sounds really safe. And it sounds like how you started to build your sense of self. You were a little girl who believed, this is my dad. And that's a kid thing. Kids don't attach halfway, they go all in. So, Maggie, if that relationship later ended with him hating you, turning against you, or him becoming someone who could no longer hold the reality of who you are or what you had been to each other, that isn't just going to be painful. That's traumatic. That's not just the loss of a man. That's a loss of your sense of place. God, that is awful. I hate this for you. And yeah, your nervous system learned. People leave. I think your nervous system learned something that's even harder than that to hold too. I think you ended up learning that relationships change over time and the truth about relationships changes. And all of that is always dependent on your mom's emotional needs. That is so incredibly confusing, whether or not you're a kid, a teenager, a young adult, or an actual adult. Little girl Maggie heard, "This is your dad." And she loved him with her whole heart. And then that reality got rewritten. Now suddenly it becomes, no, this other man matters. This relationship is the important relationship now. This is what the family looks like. This is what the truth is. And then all over again, later on, now this other new man is around and this relationship is chaos. And again, everyone has to work themselves around your mom's current relationship. And then on top of that, you're expected to forgive and soften and acquiesce and emotionally adjust and let this guy around your kids. See what I mean here, Maggie? Your nervous system never got a chance to settle long enough to ever know what's true. Every single time you build trust, the whole entire relationship map ends up getting redrawn around whatever your mom's current truth of the day is. And this isn't how any of this is supposed to work. This isn't how it goes, right? Your nervous system ended up getting recruited into every single one of your mom's relationships. And then when those relationships started breaking down or falling apart a little bit, you were the one who ended up becoming the collateral damage. It would create these emotional floods. You'd end up getting triangulated. And then suddenly you're forced to come up with a new emotional truth every single time one of her relationships changed. So, Maggie, I don't think your deepest wound here is that the men accurately saw you and then decided that you weren't worth loving. I think the bigger wound is that you were repeatedly asked to call different people family. You were called inside of that instability. And then chaos got defined as love. And all of this was named as normal. And oh my God, at some point, I have to imagine your nervous system finally said, no more, not again. I am not building my life around any of this. And Maggie, this is what I want you and all of the daughters listening to understand with me for a second, because this is really important. Unstable systems and families don't stay unstable quietly. They pull everyone into them. And that's exactly what I hear happening inside of your family. Because when a parent is as incredibly dysregulated and toxic as yours, especially someone who it seems like your mom does this thing where she organizes her entire emotional experience around her relationships, everyone in the family system starts working inside of and around that kind of chaos. You all end up adapting to different changing, never-ending changing kinds of reality. You're managing those kinds of explosions. And then, of course, like you've heard me say in recent episodes, you end up working to anticipate the kind of reactions and the fallout that might happen because you're trying to mitigate and prevent anything from getting worse. And so all of these things create new tensions while you end up trying to avoid becoming the next target. And I know a lot of daughters listening in know this song and dance, and they know it far too well. All of you know the steps to this by heart, because all of you have grown so accustomed to being recruited into this kind of crazy. And you were never meant to or built to hold this kind of crazy. So you end up being the mediator in one moment. Then the next time you're like the confidant and the person she's telling her secrets to. And then you're the peacekeeper. But then suddenly, in another wild, crazy turn of events, you're the translator, you're her witness, and God help you, her reality checker a time or two. This is madness. And after you've done your absolute best to learn everything you did and everything you tried to do, you ended up being collateral damage. The fact that you and your brother now need three-way calls in order to prevent your mom from twisting reality later is really an important detail here. Think about what this means, right? You and your brother have adapted to a system where the truth itself has become so unstable that you now need to reality test together in order to protect yourselves from being confused or having your truth distorted or triangulated. That's ridiculous. And also, it's a survival strategy, right? And you guys, you daughters are good at normalizing this stuff all the time because this is the kind of crazy that all of you grew up inside of. But this isn't normal. When you step back and you really look at what we're talking about here, we see something really fucking important. It's like the emotional environment you all were raised in. You weren't just dealing with these difficult relationships. It was this entire unstable family system where alliances and sides would shift, or stories and narratives and truth would change. And this kind of thing just brings so much confusion. Who's safe? Who's dangerous? Who belongs? What version of the truth or reality are we living in today? What are the rules today? And I think a part of you here and why you're so tired is your nervous system at this point has spent years trying to figure out how to manage situations you never should have been responsible for, all the while trying to figure out a rule book that constantly changes and gets tossed out. And I also want to say something that I think is pretty important here because I think this is another thing that daughters tend to struggle with. I noticed that you said, I forgive him for my own peace. And I'm going to urge you to be careful here because just think this through for a second. Forgiveness is this place where I see a lot of daughters end up tripping themselves up a bit. Because so often you guys end up getting pressured into believing or thinking or deciding that forgiveness has to also mean restored access. And, my friends, it doesn't. You can show someone grace and still you can put them in their damn place. I don't know where I first saw that line. It's not mine, but isn't it a good one? Daughters tend to think that if you're healed enough, compassionate enough, or evolved enough, or even spiritual enough, then you should be able to just let people back in and act like the harm didn't matter. Nope, not true. Forgiveness and access are actually two entirely different conversations, and they're two separate decisions. Forgiveness is about what you carry personally within yourself and your own personal knowing. Access is what you allow inside of your relationships. You absolutely can forgive someone and still know that they're unsafe for your nervous system. You can forgive someone and then choose not to be close to them. You can forgive someone and say, you don't get unrestricted access to me. You don't have access to my marriage, my home, my family, my children. And Maggie, I think you need to hear that because I think your nervous system is showing you so much wisdom right now. I don't hear any kind of bitterness in your letter, but I do hear some clarity and I hear truth. You are a grown woman and you are recognizing the instability that you are seeing all around you and you're calling it out for what it is. And you, my friend, are deciding that you no longer want to build your life inside of it. And that is different. I think one of the most powerful, profound lines in your letter was when you said, I refuse to let my children feel the same abandonment and instability that I felt. That right there is the cycle breaking moment, my friend. Because what I hear in that sentence is the instability stops with me. And I want all of the daughters listening in to hear this one clearly. Protecting your kids means you finally understand the cost of growing up inside of that kind of emotional unpredictability. And you are no longer willing to normalize it for the next generation. And freaking men to that, sisters. I think part of why your mom keeps pushing for this reentry is because a lot of people like her want this emotional erasure across the moment. They don't want to have any kind of accountability. If you forgave him, why can't everything go back to normal? But normal for all of you was actually the problem in the first place, because that kind of normal was chaos. And now your nervous system's telling you the truth. No, my children do not get handed the same kind of emotional nonsense that I was handed. Maggie, I don't think your healing is asking you to become more tolerant of instability. I think your healing is challenging you to stop betraying what your nervous system is already telling you and already knows. Your body has been gathering information for a really long freaking time by now. Your body knows what this kind of chaos feels like. And Maggie, we believe your body every single time. Your body knows what this chaos costs, and it knows what happens every single time the family starts working itself around your mom's crazy relationships. I think part of why you're so tired right now is some part of you is really freaking done arguing with that reality. I don't think you're confused anymore, Maggie. You're grieving, and confusion and grief are not the same thing. I think there really was a time when your nervous system believed if I explain this a little better, if I forgive this or I look the other way, maybe I can create some kind of safety. But I think you see the writing on the wall now, and you're looking at something that's a whole lot more honest and real and true, that you can't heal inside of a family that constantly is asking and demanding you to ignore and override yourself in order to preserve your mom's truth and your mom's reality, when that changes day to day as the wind blows. Somewhere deep inside yourself, Maggie, you are understanding the cost of what it's been like to grow up that way. And hear me on this. It is okay to be the one who says the instability does not get passed down anymore, because I think that's what healing tends to look like. Thank you so much, Maggie, for writing in with your story. And for sure, do me a favor here and look up pictures of Maggie Valley, North Carolina, so you can see for yourself just how pretty it is. You are a member of this incredible community of women from around the world who are in this together. All of you are naming so many hard things together. All of you are in this together. And I, for sure, most definitely am in it with you too. Bye for now. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you felt seen and heard in today's conversation. And I know conversations like this are not easy. If they were, everyone would be having them. And you all know this too. The work doesn't end here. The things we talk about, relational trauma, mother wounds, identity, and healing, well, they were never meant to be worked through alone. And that's why I've built an entire ecosystem of support around Mother Mayhem. And you can find it all at mayhemdaughters.com. Inside the Mayhem Daughters community, the conversation continues between episodes. It's not social media, it is something safer, deeper, and intentionally designed to support your healing. Community membership now includes Thursday Night Mayhem, our weekly live gathering from 3:30 to 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Every week, I facilitate a focused conversation connected to our theme of becoming your own best friend. We practice regulation, we build boundaries, and we expand capacity. If you're looking for more than insight, if you're ready for practice and connection, that space is waiting for you. I also continue to offer Tuesday group at noon Pacific Standard Time, a separate weekly support group for daughters who want a more traditional small group experience. And if you're not ready to share in a group but want my eyes on your story, I offer one-on-one Mayhem consultations as well. You can learn more about all of it over at mayhemdaughters.com. If the show has helped you and you'd like to keep it ad-free, you can support it through the link on the website. And if you're already in group, in the community, or have worked with me one-on-one, you are already supporting the show. There's nothing more I'm asking of you. If you have a story or a reflection of your own, I'd really love to hear it. You can send a message or a voice note 10 minutes or less to Heather at mayhemdaughters.com. There's no mayhem without your stories or your questions. If you know another woman who needs this conversation in her life, please share the show with her. Your reviews and shares truly matter. And lastly, a big ol' thank you to Heather Clark for editing the show. She has been in it with me since 2016, and somehow she always knows what I meant to say, even when I don't say it quite right. This isn't just a show, it's a community, and you're already a part of it. And I am so very glad you're here.